The HOA figured they could intimidate me with notices and hollow warnings. What they didn't realize was I wasn't just another homeowner, I was the county's chief of police. And the moment they crossed the line, they were about to discover real law doesn't bow to neighborhood politics. Before I get into it, drop a comment with the country you're watching from. Let's see how far this story spreads. It all started when Nancy, our HOA president, began her little power parade. She strutted through the neighborhood with her clipboard, waving fraudulent violation slips like she was some government official. She claimed she could fine me for parking in my own driveway, even though my truck was fully registered, inspected, and protected under State Vehicle Code 22,507, 2, which clearly prevents HOA letters from overriding city laws when I refused to pay. Nancy escalated. She appeared at my front door with 2 men in matching polos, calling themselves compliance officers. They flashed phony badges that looked like they came out of a printer and threatened me. "Sir, if you don't comply, we'll have to place you under arrest." That was the first red flag. Arrests. HOAs don't have that kind of power. Only sworn officers do, under State Penal Code 830.1. I kept quiet, my body camera recording every second, letting them dig their own graves. I asked questions, played dumb, and let them pile lie upon lie. But inside, I was already planning my next move, because if Nancy wanted to fake authority, I was ready to bring the real thing. The very next day, a marked security SUV pulled into my driveway, amber lights flashing. Out stepped the same 2 imposters, now holding zip ties like they were ready to haul me off. They strutted toward me, puffed up, and one barked, "Sir, under HOA code, you're under arrest. Step aside, or we'll use force." I nearly laughed. HOA code enforcement. No such thing exists. Under Title 18, U.S. Code 912. Impersonating an officer is a federal crime. This wasn't just bluffing, it was a felony. I raised my hands calmly, pretending to give in. All right, I said, stepping off my porch, but the moment they reached for me, my training took over. I seized the first guy's wrist, twisted hard, and dropped him before he could blink. His knee buckled with a crack, and he screamed, crawling toward their fake patrol car. The second lunged with zip ties, but I swept his ankle out from under him, and he slammed face first onto the pavement, dislocating his knee on impact. Both were reduced to crawling, groaning, begging me not to hit them again. I didn't need to. They were finished. I pulled out my real badge, the one issued by the county, not laminated at a copy shop. I crouched down and said evenly, "You just impersonated peace officers, trespassed, and attempted an unlawful arrest. That's prison time." Their faces drained. The bravado was gone. I called dispatch, and within minutes, real squad cars pulled up, lights flashing. My officers secured the men, read them their rights, and loaded them into cruisers. Neighbors peeked out their blinds, realizing this was no HOA scuffle, this was a criminal takedown. But the real surprise was still coming, because those 2 hadn't acted alone. Someone higher up had sent them, and I already knew exactly who. At the station, the fakes cracked almost instantly. Under questioning, one admitted they weren't freelancing, they'd been promised cash to teach me a lesson. The person behind it, none other than Nancy Grant, the HOA president. I wasn't shocked. Nancy had hated me ever since I ticketed her son last year for reckless driving. She thought intimidation could scare me off, maybe even damage my career. Instead, she walked herself into a federal case. The charges piled up fast: impersonating an officer under 18, U.S. Code 912. Conspiracy, unlawful detention, and trespassing. All felonies, and because she orchestrated it, Nancy couldn't hide behind HOA bylaws anymore. When my officers brought her in, she tried her usual smug routine, insisting it was a misunderstanding and she was just protecting the community. I slid the evidence file across the table, sworn statements, fake badges, security footage. Her expression crumbled. "This isn't a misunderstanding," I told her. "It's a conspiracy and you're done." Her lawyer tried, but the evidence was airtight. Nancy was booked within hours. The following day, the HOA board called an emergency meeting. Neighbors who once cowered under her authority now stood tall and demanded her immediate removal. The vote was unanimous. Nancy stripped of her title, fined for legal costs, and banned from ever holding HOA office again. As for the imposters, they'd be limping into prison once their knees healed, probably regretting ever taking Nancy's deal. That evening, I stood on my porch, sipping coffee while squad cars lingered on the street. Justice carried its weight. But it was right. The neighborhood was finally free from Nancy's iron grip, and me. I wasn't just another neighbor. I was their chief of police. And that's how the HOA learned the hard way: you don't send fakes after me, because when you do, you lose more than just power, you lose everything.